I'm so glad that you're here because in this video, we're going to cover 11 baseball players whose baseball card values are just simply on fire. And before we get to the end of the video, you're going to see cards that are worth 7 times more than they were than just 1 year ago. And thank you to our Hype Squad. I know hyping videos is relatively new, but what I've learned is you have to be a subscriber. And then the first 7 days after our video posts, you'll see a button to hype our videos. So make sure you subscribe and then hype our videos to join the Hype Squad. But first, let's get into it. Our first baseball player here is Willie Stargell. Willie Stargell's rookie card is the 1963 Topps, and he is a Hall of Famer. He was inducted in 1988. But according to Card Ladder, his baseball card index has increased in value 108% in just the last year alone. Now, they only track 11 cards, so I had to dig into this. And really, the card that we're going to focus on is his 1979 Topps card. In a PSA 9, this card recently sold for as high as $820, when just 1 year ago, this card was selling for $525. That means his card is 56% more valuable than it was than just a year ago, and it's not even a rookie card. So that's really interesting to look at these trends. Our next player is Orel Hershiser. I was surprised to see that Orel Hershiser is not in the Hall of Fame. And in fact, Card Ladder only tracks one of his cards, which is his 1985 Topps rookie card. So let's get into it. While his index is up 78%, his 1985 Topps rookie card in a PSA 10 was recently sold for $242, when a year ago it was selling for $148. I mean, the card is 64% more valuable in just the last year alone. Surprising to me for a card like this. Next up, I love Don Mattingly's cards. This is his famous Donruss rookie. 84 is his rookie year. Don Mattingly is not on the Hall of Fame, and Card Ladder tracks 14 of his cards, and they noticed that his value of cards has increased by 70% in just the last year alone. So let's see what cards are going up. The first one is the 1984 Topps Tiffany Don Mattingly rookie. I do like these cards. This one in PSA 9 recently sold for $1,131, when just 1 year ago, the same Tiffany card was selling for $666, making this card worth 70% more than it was just 1 year ago. And I do like that card. Number 4, maybe the most iconic Donruss card of all time, maybe, but I love this card, is his 1984 Donruss rookie card. In a PSA 9, it sold recently for $330, and a year ago, these were selling for $186, making this card worth 77% more than it was just 1 year ago. Next player up is Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente's rookie card is the 1955 Topps here, and he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1973. Card Ladder tracks 128 different Roberto Clemente cards, and they noticed that in the last year, his cards have increased in value by 69% overall, at least his player index. So I wanted to dig in to see which cards were doing the best. The first card I found is this 1956 Topps Roberto Clemente card. This one has a gray back in a PSA 7. This one's just sold for $3,321 in December. And if you look at this same card, a year ago it sold for $1,700. Making this card 95% more valuable than it was just a year ago. That's just barely less than twice as valuable as it was a year ago. Pretty impressive. Next player up is Jim Palmer. Jim Palmer is a Hall of Famer. He was inducted in 1990, and this is his rookie card, the 1966 Topps Jim Palmer. Card Ladder tracks 23 of his cards, and they noticed that his card index is up 61% in just the last year alone, which is pretty wild. So digging into it, we can see that this Jim Palmer rookie card is 1966 Topps in a PSA 9, just sold in December for $8,917. And 1 year ago, that same card was selling for $4,560, making this card 96% more valuable in just the last year. That's almost 2x again. Next player up is Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols is eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2028, and his Upper Deck rookie is one of my favorite looking cards. This is his 2001 Upper Deck. I love that card. Card Ladder tracks 56 of his cards, and they said that his player card index is up 63% in just the last year, which is always surprising to me, these big moves of players that are not currently playing. So looking into it, a 2001 Topps Chrome traded Albert Pujols rookie card in PSA 10 just sold in January for $2,600. And that same card was selling for $1,315 just 1 year ago, making this card worth 98% more valuable than it was just a year ago. Again, another card that has basically doubled in value in just the last 12 months. Number 8 is the 2001 Topps Trade Albert Pujols. So this is not the Chrome version. In a PSA 10, this card sold for $2,025 just in January. And a year ago, this card was selling for $1,275, making this card 59% more valuable than it was just a year ago. Our next player up is Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire's rookie card is the 1985 Topps Team USA Olympic card. And then he has some Topps traded rookies in 86. His card ladder index tracks 5 cards, and they noticed that his values are up 67%. So I wanted to dig into that. Card number 9 is the 1987 Donruss Mark McGwire baseball rookie card. This one in a PSA 10 recently sold for $235, when just a year ago, this card was selling for about $104, making this card 127% more valuable. And if you remember your math, that means it is viable, more than twice as viable as it was just a year ago. Card number 10 is, I love this card, I have it. It's the 1985 Topps Tiffany Mark McGwire. I don't have the Tiffany version, that is my bad. In a PSA 10, this card sold for $30,500. Holy moly, which sounds like a lot, but a year ago it was selling for $17,690. This card has increased by 72% in value in just the last 12 months, which kind of blows my mind, but I do think the 80s cards are seeing a little bit of a resurgence right now. Next up is Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn is a Hall of Famer. He was inducted in 2007. This is his rookie card here, the 1983 rookie cards. This is his Topps card, which I love. And Card Ladder tracks 15 of his cards, saying that currently his player index is up 68% in just the year alone, so I wanted to dig into which cards are moving. First one up is the 1984 Topps Tony Gwynn. It's always fascinating to me when non-rookie cards, like his second-year card, is making big moves. His PSA 10 84 Topps recently sold for $536 in December, and a year ago that card was selling for $207, making this card 159% more valuable than it was a year ago. That means it's about 2.5 times more valuable than just the last 12 months. And it's not a rookie card. This stuff blows my mind, but I do like looking at data. Next one is his 1983 Donruss rookie card in a PSA 10. This sold just in January for $710, when a year ago this card was selling for as low as $370 in PSA 10. Kind of wish I stocked up on these. It is 92% more valuable, so just under twice as valuable in just the last 12 months. And it wouldn't be complete without his 1983 Topps rookie card. This baseball card in PSA 10 sold for $5,601 just in January. And a year ago, this same PSA 10s were selling for just $3,350. Now, while that sounds like a lot, it's still 67% more valuable today, making those purchases great deals. Unbelievable. Next up is Will Clark. I can't believe... Now, Will Clark was such a big deal, especially on the cover of Beckett and all that good stuff when I was growing up. I'm surprised he's not a Hall of Famer. Eventually I'll have to go back and look at his stats and come to a conclusion on the Card Ladder tracks 10 of his cards, and they said that his card values are up 170% in just the last year. So I had to dig into this. I'm not sure why the index is so high, but the first card I looked at is his 1986 Topps Traded Tiffany baseball card. In a PSA 10, this card sold for basically $1,100 in January, when a year ago the same card, same grade, was selling for $370, making this baseball card an unbelievable 192% more valuable, which is basically 3 times more valuable than it was just a year ago. Unbelievable. Next card is the 1986 Topps Traded Will Clark Tiffany and the PSA 9. I was like, am I doing the same card again? But this is just to show his PSA 9 is also up dramatically. So it's just sold for $275 when a year ago this was selling for $83, making even his PSA 9 Tiffany 231% more valuable. This is also a good case just to show sometimes people believe you have to buy PSA 10s and the most valuable cards to make the most money. And while those are definitely worth the most, sometimes card values, when they move like this, buying the PSA 9s, you get a greater return on your investment by buying lower grades and having maybe a couple of these. So this is certainly a card I could have afforded a year ago. I wish I bought them. And next is this 1986 Topps Traded base card in a PSA 10. These are selling for $80. When a year ago they were selling for $61, not too bad, but still a 29% increase in value in just a year. That's not too bad. That's better than the stock market. Not this year, though. Number 17 is the 1992 Donruss Will Clark Elite Series. These are numbered out of 10,000. I remember when these came out and thought 10,000 was a ton of cards, but these have held value pretty well. Even in a PSA 8, this card recently sold in November for $100, when a year ago it was selling for just $64, making this card 56% more valuable in just the last year. And if you made it this far in the video, we hope you're enjoying it. Please share it with someone else who would appreciate it. That really helps us. Number 7, the next player is, number 7. The next player up is Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt, his rookie card is the 1973 Topps. He was also inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in 1995. And Card Ladder says his baseball cards have increased in value by 103%. You can see that big jump right there at the end. So I wanted to dig into that. There's 34 cards tracked, and some of the best ones I found here is the 1984 Topps Mike Schmidt. I love when a card later in his career pops off. This PSA 10 just sold for $72.30 in November, when a year ago you could have gotten the PSA 10 for just $20, making this card 271% more valuable, almost 4 times more valuable, closer to 3.5 times more valuable in just 1 year. Unbelievable. Next card is the 1986 Topps Mike Schmidt. You all know I have a soft spot in my heart for the 1986 Topps card and design. His PSA 10 sold in November for $806, when just a year ago this same card and grade was selling for $258, making this baseball card worth 212% more than it was just a year ago. That's about 3 times more. We're doing math today. Next up is the 1973 Topps Mike Schmidt rookie card. This baseball card in a PSA 9 just sold for, wow, $19,500 in December, which is a ton. And a year ago, this was only selling for $8,500, making this card 130% more valuable in just the last year. So this card is more than doubled in value. Amazing card. We have another one, 1984 Topps Mike Schmidt in a PSA 10. This one in December sold for $202, and a year ago it was selling for $96, making this card worth 111% more valuable. You can see that card's doubled in value in just the last year. That's wild. And why not have another Mike Schmidt card? I love actually these pictures of Mike Schmidt. The 1982 Topps Mike Schmidt PSA 10 baseball cards sold for $610 in November. And a year ago, these were selling for just $365. So they don't come up too often, but if you can get one closer to the $360 price instead of $610, it might be a good buy. So this card is 67% more valuable than it was just a year ago. And the player who probably started this is I saw a trend where Barry Bonds cards have just popped off. And I don't know if it's because the 80s are becoming more popular, maybe with Stranger Things and stuff like that too, or if it's Barry Bonds specifically. But Barry Bonds, he has 37 cards tracked in Card Ladder. They said that his cards are up 59% in the last year. And so I want to dig into the biggest movers from Barry Bonds. This one's going to blow your mind. This is the 1987 O-Pee-Chee Barry Bonds. I love O-Pee-Chee cards in general. I know 87 is a rookie card for Barry Bonds because they consider extended rookies in the Topps Traded. But this in a PSA 7 just sold for $100, which is not mind-blowing other than the fact that 1 year ago you could get this card for $14, making this card 620% more valuable than it was just a year ago. That's 7 times more valuable. Again, it's another example of these are cards that anyone can afford and are going to get great returns on. I wish I saw this one coming, and I love O-Pee-Chee. I love just how unique the cards printed in Canada are and how they're more rare. Next up for Barry Bonds is this 1987 Donruss card. This baseball card in PSA 10 recently sold just in January for $390, and these were regularly selling for $150 a year ago. Meaning this card is 160% more valuable than it was a year ago. That's 2.5 times more valuable in just the last year alone. Card number 25 is the 1987 Topps Barry Bonds. This in a PSA 10 sold for $620. And a year ago, this card was selling for just $250, which is wild. I also wouldn't have chased this card because I consider 86 to be his rookie. But this card is 148% more valuable than it was a year ago, 2.5 times more valuable. I do like the look of this one. The next card up is the 1987 Fleer Glossy Barry Bonds. This was Fleer's attempt to go after the Topps Tiffany cards. This baseball card in the PSA 10 sold for $871 in January. And now, a year ago, they were selling for $361, making this card 141% more valuable, another 2.5 times increase in value in just the last year alone. And Barry Bonds, there's so many cards coming about Barry Bonds, but he's the one that you probably saw in my other video of cards that have doubled in value, and Barry Bonds kept showing up on there. There's definitely a trend, something going on with Barry Bonds right now. Card number 27 is the 1986 Topps Traded Barry Bonds in a Tiffany. This baseball card in PSA 10 recently sold for, I'm going to just call it $16,000 to make our lives easier. But a year ago, it was selling for $7,189, making this card 122% more valuable in just the last year. Crazy doubling in value of this card. Card number 28 is the 1987 Fleer Barry Bonds. This in a PSA 10. This baseball card sold for $425 just in January. And a year ago, this card was regularly selling for about $225, which blows my mind, making this card 89% more valuable in just the last year. Not quite doubling, but close enough and a great return. If you made it this far in the video, please leave us a money emoji in the comments and I will hit you back with a rockin' guitar. But the last card on our list is the 1986 Topps Traded Barry Bonds base card in a PSA 10. This baseball card sold for $700 just recently, when a year ago it was selling for $387. I do have one of these. These are one of the cards that I bought a bunch of in 2001 when he was breaking the home run record. I recently talked to a friend of mine when I said I had this card. He's like, oh, is that the really expensive one? I said, no, it's not Tiffany. But look at this. This card has almost doubled in value, so it's 81% more valuable in just the last year. I probably am tempted to sell it, but then I also know I'll never buy it back again for $700. I'm not that big a Barry Bonds fan. But thank you so much for watching. We've got way more in store for you in 2026. We've had such a great time with 1.3 million views in 2025, and we went from 2,000 to 10,000 subscribers. So make sure you subscribe. We'll see how far we get in 2026. And make sure you watch one of these videos next, because YouTube says we're going to love it, and we made it for you. We'll see you there.